Have you ever wondered if the money rules you've followed your entire life still make sense to you? Because I want to ask you something. I've been thinking about these a lot, especially lately. Not because they're my money rules, but because they're some of the rules I've heard women repeat over and over and over again during the last 30 years. When you move into a new home, you don't take everything with you. You decide what goes and you decide what stays. I've been wondering lately whether we should do this with our financial lives. Look at some of the rules together and decide what goes and what stays. I think one of the hardest parts of entering the second half of life is no one tells us that we actually get to question the rules, right? And so I'm telling you now that we get to question the rules. Do they still fit us? Do they still work for us? And, the rules that helped us build a successful life may not be the rules that allow us to enjoy it or live it. And almost nobody tells women that. Some years ago, when I was still working in corporate, I had one of those moments where I couldn't find myself. I had so lost myself in my work, and I knew what I was experiencing was very unhealthy. And I decided that I needed to make a move. I needed to do something really hard. So I looked at my finances just like I help my clients do. And it wasn't the prettiest picture, because what I wanted to do was actually sell everything and just leave the country, go to Africa or somewhere and just never come back. And given the age I was in my mid-30s, that wasn't really feasible. So I sat with the impulse for a little bit, and what I did is I looked at my retirement accounts and I decided that I was going to liquidate one of them. And I'd had it for a really long time. It really hadn't grown. It wasn't doing very much. And I decided that the tax hit was worth it. And so I told my boss I was going to take a leave of absence, and I was fine if she told me you're going to have to leave, but she said, great. So I took a 60-day leave of absence because I needed to get my soul back. I remember sitting at her desk and looking out my eyes, but there was nothing of me present. And I knew that this was imperative. And so I did that, and it felt really hard to do. It felt like all those rules kept running through my head. You can't spend it. You can't use it. If you use some of your retirement money, you're not going to be okay later. You should be grateful, suck it up, move on, And so what I ended up doing was taking a reprieve. I ended up getting massages almost every single day, going to the beach every single day, working out every single day, and journaling. I kept it really simple. I actually didn't even go anywhere. And I started to reclaim myself. But the hardest part of that decision was that I could hear my dad in my head saying, you can't spend it. You have to save it for forever. You're not okay if you don't have tons of retirement savings. And my mom in my other ear saying, just be grateful. You got to keep it for later. You got to wait until you're ready. You're not ready, right? And all those things were running through me. And I was like, I have to do this. And that inner war, I know you know what I'm talking about, right? That inner struggle became so hard. But that's when I started to question if these money rules, these financial rules, actually really apply to what we need and who we are. Because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal on our deathbed will be, did I live well? Not did I save for retirement well? Listen, I'm all about retirement savings. I'm not saying not doing that. I'm not saying be so frugal that you don't live. I'm talking about how we use our money so that we can fund the life we actually really want to live. So based on that, I'd actually like to give you something really practical to work with today. So whenever you notice one of those money rules showing up, run it through what I call the 3-question rule filter. Okay, this is really important that you do this, and just write it down, jot it down, and make it really simple. I put it in notes on my phone, and so when I need a money reset, let me go look at my notes. It's like 2 minutes maximum. Okay, and so the first question really is check in with yourself. who gave me this rule? Who gave you this rule? Was it your parents? Was it your advisor? Was it a colleague? Was it a partner? Was it a husband? Was it a friend? Was it somebody that you're in a mastermind with? Who gave you that rule? Just label it. Who gave you that rule? And it's probably someone who was trying to do right by you, but sometimes we adopt what other people say and they're actually not ours. So it's really good to identify who gave you that rule. Okay, the second question is, when did this rule serve you? So for example, most rules aren't actually bad, but they came from an old system and something that doesn't serve us anymore, and they were useful and they helped us build security. We want to honor that, right? And so when was that useful? Because we want to look at, is it still useful? And it might be. Just remember, like moving into a house, we're going to decide what stay and what goes. That's all we're trying to do here, okay? So question number 3 really is, does this rule still help me build the life I'm trying to fund, the life I actually want to live? Because one of the biggest things that we can do is we've got to give ourselves permission to let go of the old stories, the old voices, other people's ways of identifying with this, right? And look at, was this actually never true? Was this rule, did it ever actually serve you, right? And is it true for the woman that I want to become? That's the most important financial question that you'll ever ask yourself. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples of this. This one. Don't touch your money. Ouch, right? Who gave you this rule? Was it your father? Was it your mother? Was it someone that you know? Who gave you this rule? And when did it serve you? For me, my dad gave me this rule. And while I was trying to build my income and I decided that I needed to leave corporate America and earn my way out, that one was raging in my head about how important it was to feel safe and secure and build a future. But my edit to the rule was build a future while I also still get to live. And it didn't fit. It didn't fit anymore because it was an absolute black and white. Don't ever touch your money. Save it and then avoid it, put it over there, and never, ever, ever touch your money. And I was like, I can't live like that. That's not who I am. I wanted to fund my life of freedom, of wildlife photography. And so living by the rule, I can never touch my money, was incompatible with the way that I wanted to live. So I edited the rule and I was touch your money wisely. Okay. If you're someone like me who worked really hard and you spent 30 years trying to fund your freedom, build up and save for retirement and build up your financial resources, then what part of that rule do you want to keep? And what part of that rule do you actually want to let go? And so I'm going to sum this up for you. Money without a purpose becomes fear in a very beautiful, sensible outfit. Who created that rule? Right? Who created that rule? It was a generation with pensions. They had a different life expectancy. We're a different generation with different opportunities and a much higher calling to actually want to live and to thrive and to have well-being. The better question really isn't, is this a good rule? The better question, is this still my rule? That's the powerful question to ask here. Is this still your rule? Because a rule can be wise and still no longer be yours. I've become fascinated with this one, and I think it's one of the ones that really hangs a lot of us up because it feeds into our insecurities, into our wondering about our worthiness and our enoughness, right? And, you know, what if Ready isn't something you feel, but it's something you create, one thoughtful decision at a time. Waiting for certainty is often how we postpone the life our money was supposed to fund. So with all of this, I don't think the goal is to become rebellious. I think the goal is to become intentional, because there's actually a really big difference. And I'm not asking you to reject everything you've ever learned. I'm inviting you to decide what still belongs and what serves you today. Now that you've reached a new benchmark of accomplishment and satisfaction and building up resources, right? It's a different set of rules that will support you in having the life you want. And so I'm giving you permission to actually edit your rules. Here's the big one. I actually don't think these are money rules. I think they're identity rules. And identity rules are much harder to question because they feel like a part of who we are. But my friend, you are not the same woman who originally learned them. In my program, Your Funded Next Move, the final step is claim your want. Because first you got to name your want. And then you got to reclaim your authority. And then you got to break the rules. The ones that are holding you into an identity that doesn't allow you to live the life you always wanted to fund. So this week, I'd love for you to try something. Actually pick one of these and write down one money rule that you've lived by for years, just one. And then ask yourself, who gave me this rule? When did it serve me? And does it still apply? Or do I need to edit it? Does it actually help me build the life I'm trying to fund? Some rules we're going to keep. Some rules we're going to thank. And some we'll just simply decide not to carry anymore. I'm Julie Steelman, and I believe financial certainty isn't about following every money rule you've inherited. It's about trusting yourself enough to decide which ones still apply and which ones you can let go. If this conversation made you think, I'd love to hear more from you. Leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be giving you more and more of this. And if you're wondering what your next step is or how you can deepen this or where you need to look at where you're financially uncertain, and if you're trying to decide if your next big move is financially possible, then go to knowyourook.com and download my AI-powered journey, and you can find out right away in less than 2 minutes. Until next time, remember, money doesn't create freedom, it funds it.